So, Gemma, thank you very much for joining us for this event. I'm just gonna give a kind reminder that this conference will be streamed with the chat. So please remain courteous on the chat and do not pass in pictures that are too big, so that people later on the YouTube video will be able to read smoothly what's going on. Gemma, if you want to start, it's all yours.
I hope everyone can see the screen that I've shared. It should say online as the first slide. Visible, I hope. I can't see the chat, so I will ask someone would manage questions that come through the chat. Sorry, I've called it ATT online. I've unilaterally given you an English title because I wasn't confident I could pronounce the word numérique. I'm probably saying that horribly wrong. I apologize. My foreign languages have gotten even worse since the pandemic. So I hope everyone is doing really well and that the first ATT online has gone well. I understand that I am the closing act, and it's been an absolute honor to have been invited once again to speak with this amazing initiative. And it's always been something that very much impressed me. It's a contribution to the community that is entirely unique. I haven't seen any other group doing it. And I was really sad that this had to be last year. It has been 2 years I attended, possibly the highlight of my Mahjong calendar. So I'm really glad that you are continuing to keep this going, even during a global pandemic. I didn't get to come in on some of the roundtables and the presentations you had previously, unfortunately, because I was stressing too much about this presentation. But I did look for a few ones. And honestly, if you can teach me how to make the British be so well behaved in discussions, I would love it, because we all talk over each other. Anyway, so you have to forgive me a little bit if I'm nervous. I am very, very nervous. I do better in real life. These online events are quite stressful for me. So please forgive my nerves. Anyway, if you don't already know who I am, my name is Gemma Sakamoto. I used to be College. I got married and became Sakamoto. I'm in the UK Mahjong Association, where I'm the General Secretary. I am the president of the World Vichy Championship that unfortunately had to be postponed last year and hopefully will run this year, but that's vaccine dependent. And further, I am in the Japan Professional Mahjong League. I'm a Japan Professional Mahjong player. I am in the 30th intake, which I think about 2013 to 2014 is the period in which I was debuted in the JPML. If my English goes astray, please, someone feel free to jump in and ask me to explain again. It's not your English, it is my English for sure. So I had a few kind of ideas of what I would present to you today. I know this is a strategy seminar, so I am denied about whether I would do flushes. I thought flushes would be too easy. I then thought about doing assists, where you help another player on the table to promote your own position. I thought maybe that would be too advanced. And so I settled on Ishan 10 strategy, which I'm kind of hoping is going to draw in a wide range of abilities. It's always difficult with these things. You never quite know what level you have, and I'm hoping that someone will find something in this for themselves. Everyone will find something in this for themselves. Or I disappoint people. Other option. My goals today is to draw focus away from Tenpai. What would you discard? A lot of what would you discards I see going around on Discord are from Tenpai positions. So I'd like to draw a little bit of focus away from that. How to rationally evaluate your hand's value. Again, it's fairly easy in the cold light of day. Sometimes it does prove difficult. In a game, though, reduce overpush. I'm sure all of us have found ourselves in a situation where we wish we hadn't pushed something as hard as we did. Finally, as a sort of bonus point, be taken into your opponent's head, which is always what you need to do for Mahjong. So I know that you've had a presentation about what would you discard and play styles already. So some of this I think is going to overlap a little. So, something I've noticed in the community is that they can be contentious. If you're not in a positive community, I hope you are. Perhaps, you have people deriding the choice that you made or be passively aggressive about it. What I want to teach you here now is that pros rarely agree themselves. So this is some material that I received from the JPML, which you hear today. this was a what would you discard that they sent out amongst all the other professionals to get their feelings on. I'm just going to give you a minute to look at it. I don't know if people want to put in the chat what they would discard. I do have my phone, so I can have a look at what your discards would be. Difficult when you're talking to yourself to a black rectangle, I'll tell you that now. Discord cutting my voice off, thank you. I will just check my... Hopefully the sensitivity is a little bit better. So yeah, let's assume it won't be too. Please answer, yeah. And any answer's fine. I have some 4 pins. Forgotten what, let me try and fix it back. Sorry for... Six pin, I see. Another 6 pin, 2 4 pins, 2 6 pins. Pin from Seiko. Six pin, aiming big. That's 6 man. Yeah. I'll allow Gemma to go typing, and then I'll move on to what the professionals gave as their answers. Oh, 6 man. Okay. Okay, so these are what the professionals would have discarded. You can see their answers were quite varied. So you've got 10 professionals, including Kozue Pro, saying the 4 pin. We have 14 professionals saying the 6 man, including Rumi Nikaido, and 15 professionals saying the 6 pin, including Aki Nikaido. So really, if you gave those answers, none of you are wrong. So for interest's sake, the professionals who said they would throw out the 4 pin were answering things like the 7 pair seems too far away. In the worst situation, this is a sumo 1000, 2000 hand. The 2 pin will be the head, and it looks like the bamboos. It's quite wide. They can build something into that. Those who answered the 6 man, Rumi Nikaido just simply answered, "I want to win Suanko." I thought was bold. I'd also like to win Suanko. It doesn't happen to me often. And the others were talking about Toy Toy and 7 pairs and wanting to keep that open. And then 15 professionals, Aki Nikaido said 6 pin. They were thinking Toy Toy, Tanyao. So this kind of overlaps with your 6 man decision. I want to look at it again. And then the other answers that were given by about 5 professionals each were 7 man, 5 so, 8 pin, 6 so. Just goes to show the wide range of thinking and theories that can go into these what would you discards. The only wrong answer, I think, will be the 2 pin. So never, ever, ever throw away the Dora is the hot tip here. The pros will rarely say that they want to throw away the Dora. It's not that rare to have so many answers from professionals, especially when they're talking amongst themselves, because they want to have these discussions. And they're always positive discussions, which is why I always maintain that you should never wave away someone's answer as wrong. There's always a reason behind it. You have to look into the explanation to decide how valid the answer was. And this is part of the problems with these what would you discard. They're very flat. There's no life to them. There's no color. They can give you training and fundamentals like tile efficiency, what sort of yaku to go for, but they don't actually give you an insight into the game and the dynamics of the game itself. And this can be very frustrating, I think, sometimes for players, because they, they do these what would you discard drills. They want to have these hard rules, and they want the numbers. They want to know what the right answer is. But it can vary so much considering, depending on your situation. And you have to remember that Riichi Mahjong is a game where you play the people with the tiles, not play the tiles with the people. So the people are the key to winning this game. So a lot of the what would you discards that I see going around are often these total nightmare situations, like a hideous high pie where you have to throw something and there's no answer, or they're asking, do you reach or not? Do you dammer? Or maybe do we go for the sanshoku, or do you go for the straight here, the itsu here? So they're always quite, quite yes/no questions, maybe. So I would say that a good what would you discard prompts discussions, prompts evaluations for hands value, the potential and its future, with exit strategies. But what it can't do, and why even if you're the best at what would you discards, what it can't do is give you an insight into the player temperament, their long strategies, your long strategy, the history in the game, the history of games that have gone previously. You have to remember, players are not always rational actors. If I've lost against that person in the past, I will really push very hard to try not to lose against that person again. And people who've known me and have played with me in the European scene will know that I have not enemies, I love them, but friendly nemesises. Nemesi? I'm not sure what the plural. Anyway, so we're not rational actors. We do act on emotion sometimes, and you can't get that out of what would you discard. And that's part of the problem. So let's go back to these tempi, what would you discard and would you reach, stuff like that. So the problem we're looking at those what would you discards and not considering what came before is that you've already usually penned yourself into a decision. We tend to focus in on the tile or the action that would happen immediately before the disaster, not the 2 tiles back or even the first tile draw. We always look at that disaster point and go, this is where it went wrong. This was the turning point. Whereas really, in truth, it probably went wrong a few tiles back. And this is why I wanted to talk to you about Ishanten strategy. Is that Ishanten moment that can really impact what happens. So, and I think victories are made in the decisions before you've reached Tenpai. And the mistake to overpush is almost always locked in at Ishanten. Once you're at Ishanten, most people find it difficult to step back away again. And there's a reason for the GameStop picture, and I will come to that in a minute, for those of you who are up to date with the latest internet news. So these sort of Ishanten mistakes are, is overthinking what the future of the hand. If I draw this particular tile, then I'll have Sanshoku and I have two hand. If I Riichi, maybe I could get an Ura. And this basic raw, I just need to win something. I've sat here for like 8-9 hands. I need to get out of this. I need to win something. And this is when we start to overpush. And much like these GameStop shares, the actual value has become entirely detached from the reality. The value that you're placing on your hand is not the reality of the hand. Just like these GameStop investors, they're imagining this value exists, but it's paper. It's not there. It's a potential future, but it's not necessarily going to happen. I am not a financial advisor. Do not take my financial advice. So these are the kind of mistakes psychologically we can make at Ishanten. Stonks. Yes. So I hope this hasn't triggered too many of you. So I was actually reading Shiratori's book in the bath one day, and I didn't get through many pages before I had a little cry. It was almost as he'd seen into my mahjong heart and found this horrible beast, this mistake that I was consistently making, and he was talking directly to me. I felt very seen. I felt very called out. So this was something that really spoke to me, and I really gave it a lot of consideration after this. So this was Shiratori's example about what makes a loser. And he uses this word loser after telling you to be nice about what would you discard, if you read this man's book, he will tell you these are he doesn't, because these are the actions of losers. Okay? So this is Shiratori's example. The dealer declares reach. It is a red 5s game, so we can assume not WRC rules. East 1, the door is the 5 man. You've got these dealer discards and the dealer reaches. This is your hand. Now, I will throw it to you all and ask, what will you discard? 7 pin. Eto-san is obviously buying GameStop shares as we speak. Jeremy goes for the 9 bamboo. Altes goes for 9 bamboo. Simon goes for 9 bamboo. Ellie goes for 9 pin. Yeah. Now, this is something I find interesting about myself. In the cold light of day, I'd probably throw the 9 bamboo. But I'm going to be honest with you. I might throw the 7 bamboo if I'm in a game. Acting rationally in a game is difficult. So this is the decision here, right? That you can hold your position, you can hold your Ishan 10 by either throwing that 7 pin or the 7 bamboo. However, Shiratori says either the 7 pin or the 7 bamboo makes you a loser. So I am, for those of you who chose those 2 options, I am also a loser. Yeah. 7 pin and the 7 bamboo are very dangerous tiles to throw. And what are you pushing? Have a Dora. I guess you're going to have to reach because there is no other Yaku otherwise. You're going to have a Dora Richi. And just to compound that chaos, that awfulness, you're also going to have suboptimal weight shapes. You're going to either end up weighting with that edge weight or an inside weight. These are terrible, terrible weight situations. And you're pushing against the dealer. Yeah, so the good answer, the winner's answer here would be to throw the 9 bamboo. I'd like to say I'd do that, but I'm probably going to throw the 7 in a real game. I know that's what I'm like. So it's an easy exit for the 9 bamboo. So and this is the key, is having the self-control, right? These are the questions you can ask to kind of bring back that self-control to your game. First question, is pushing / maintaining mean that I'm going to throw a dangerous tile over a safe tile? Here, you clearly have some very safe tiles. You can sort of, maneuver around this dealer reach. Second question, can you build a good weight shape? Right now, you have very, very poor weighting shape. Thirdly, are there going to be high return / value for this risky plane? Let's say those 9 bamboos with Dora. This would be another conversation entirely. And the final question, are you allowing yourself to become over-invested in this hand? And only you can answer that question. I can sometimes know how it feels. As I said, maybe you've sat there for 8 hands and won nothing, zilch. You've just watched people sumo and ron and everything's happened around you and you're frustrated and you just want something to kind of turn that luck. And that's the kind of over-investment I'm talking about. There's other ways to be over-invested. Perhaps you've seen this hand slowly move from absolute trash to something nice, and you kind of want your black sheep hand to live. That you might be over-invested and not asking those 3 questions above in a sensible and rational manner. I said, doing this in real life is hard. Doing it when you're sitting there, what discard? Easy. You've got all the time in the world. But what is a push hand? This is what Shiratori would say is a push hand in this situation. Or is still the 5 man, like dealer's discards are exactly the same. And this is a totally different situation here. If we look at the questions I just sort of posed, these are not Shiratori's questions, by the way, these are questions I made up just in case you go and talk to him about them and he'll look at you as if you're insane because he didn't make these up. So is pushing / maintaining meaning that you're going to throw a dangerous tile over a safe tile? Well, you'll have to throw a dangerous tile, no matter what. There are no safe tiles here for you, considering the dealer's discards. If I just show you the discards, it is very difficult to think what would be safe within this situation here. The second question, can you build a good weight shape? For that 8 bamboo, have a 2-5-8 shape. Even better from that 2-5-8 shape is the 8 that's already sat in the dealer's discard. So a chance that's going to come out. And are there going to be high return / value for this risky play? Yes. We've got 2 Dora, 1 red 5. It's a Pinfu, it's a Tanyao, and maybe you're going to reach it. I don't know if you're going to reach it. And Shiratori doesn't touch on this. Personally, I wouldn't reach it because the 8 pin is sat in the dealer's discards. And I would hope that with all eyes on him, no one's going to throw, if all eyes on him, someone's going to throw that 8 pin to me instead. And the final question, am I allowing myself to be overinvested? In this situation, you are the right level of invested. You know, you've bought into your GameStop shares at $30 and now you're sitting on a small fortune. Let's check what everyone is saying in the chat. Pin for yes, if the 8. And this is something actually, Aita-san, thank you for bringing that up. That Toy does caveat the first hand, this hand. In some situations, yes, you push because the points require you to push. Then you know you've asked other questions. You've asked yourself, you know, is there going to be high return / value? If the value is we're Audas and all you need is those 1,000 points, the value is winning the table potentially. So then it's worth it, right? So, the thing I like to do, and I'm not sure if the rest of you do this, is when I see the sort of example where I really resonate with it, I'm like, oh, that is what I do. Oh gosh, you know, and it sits on me, and I feel heavy by it. I try to go through my own replays, see if I can catch myself actually doing it. To be able to attach that bad play, my own play, it helps kind of, you know, solidify in my head what is the thought pattern that I personally have? Because each of you will have your own thought patterns. What is my thought pattern that got me into that situation so that next time, hopefully, I can catch myself doing it? So I went to my own place and I found worked examples. So it's terrifyingly similar, but actually worse. It's actually worse than Shiratori's example. So maybe I should send this to Shiratori so he can add it to his next book. He'd be like, I found the idiot who plays like this. It's Gemma. She lives in the UK. Anyway, so yes, this is my worked example. I'm going to say what they would throw here. After that, you know, Shiratori's discussion, I'm sure that you're going to be smart. Oh yes, sorry. Pin is tempting here, but yeah, I mean, do you know what I would say here? The 8 pin is I would be concerned because it's quite adjacent to the Dora. I don't think it's all that tempting. It is adjacent to the Dora. Why is he throwing out a red 5? He probably has a Dora. I can't see why he would not want to keep a red 5. Yeah. So yeah, if 9 pin wasn't the Dora, then I'm with you, Jeremy, here. Yes, and I do not believe in Suji traps and reach tiles. They are not Suji traps. None of you gave the answer that I actually made, which is this is a terrible way to play Mahjong. And I'm not holding this up as, look, Gemma plays good Mahjong. I play terrible Mahjong, and I'm going to demonstrate it to you now. I decided to throw the 4 pin in some bizarre mentality. I would like to point out this is East 1, so it's flat points here, absolutely flat. Yami Shanten, I throw the 4 pin, which I hope everyone agrees is pure insanity, right? All agree on that, yeah? This is not how to play Mahjong. Certainly not how to play Mahjong to win. Then I managed to, you know, I pull some tiles. I do throw that 8 pin. For some reason, I think, well, if I can get away with the 4 pin, well, the 8 pin must be fine. Again, really very stupid way to think. And then I managed to get some extra tiles that are safe, and I reached the point where I'm Tenpai. this is, and then I go for the 3 bamboo, my tenpai, which again is a terrible choice, absolutely terrible. But I think the problem is that sometimes, you know, we look at this point in the game and go, what would you discard? What would you discard here? That wasn't where it all went wrong. All went wrong strategically and psychologically here. Because as soon as I got away of throwing that 4-pin, I had over-invested in the hand, and it was no longer possible for me psychologically. Of course, it's possible I could have thrown those easts. Psychologically, I could no longer get out of it. Exactly, Simon. I was tilted, but it's not tilted in the same way that you normally tilt, that, you know, you've gone through several losing streaks, you know, some good hands have just not come through for you. This is East 1. Tilted for no reason. This is a you know, an issue with the way I'm thinking about the game. And I'd like, you know, yes, of course, Valentin, thank you for saying we you know, maybe you're not making this particular mistake, but there will be mistakes that you are making repeatedly. And as soon as you can shine a light on those errors, is then that you can start improving your play. Because I can tell you now, since I went through and witnessed past Gemma making this horrifying error, I have not done it again. So, you know, you see what would you discard and you see mistakes being made. I would think, oh, well, you know, I don't do that. This is not my problem. We're like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to take that on board and I'm going to remember. Actually dig into your games and look and see and really assess, you know, along a set of questions that you might make for yourself, whether you are making errors. 4-pin is too bad a way to play for this hand here. I'll come back to you, Manuel. I'll come back to you. I can share this PowerPoint, and that's the point. We are not rational actors. So I think actually a little bit shorter than I hoped. It's difficult again to time these things because when you're in real life, you know, you kind of have these conversations prompted, and I hope we can come to a conversation after this. However, so what I was kind of hoping that we could all take away from this is that when you're thinking of what you discard, you see something that you've done and you'd like to share it with your group, your mahjong group, rather than taking the point where you're a tenpai or the point where the error happened, you actually go a few tiles back, see if you can rewind it and see if there is the actual what would you discard question. And you know, because part of the problem is we fence ourselves in, right? Mine wasn't fencing myself in. However, if you don't build exit strategies from 2 shanten, 1 shanten, you are inevitably going to come a cropper. Or you can do what I do, which is psychologically set myself up for a fall. And this has been my massive frustration in general with mahjong. Is I know the theory, I've had some amazing training, some great people, but psychologically I always collapse. And this is my problem, which I really need to focus on in the next few years. Probably, I don't think this is something you can unwind quickly. And people like Yemai-san would also say that actually mahjong is a battle with yourself, so much the other players. Rationally evaluate your hand. As we've seen, the 2 examples I gave from Shiratori and from my own playstyle demonstrates that, you know, you need to think, am I pushing a hand here? So if we look back at my hand that I irrationally pushed, I'm just pushing these easts. That's all I've got. I've got nothing else. In my mind, when I drew those 3 concealed easts, I was like, wow, 3 concealed easts. You rarely see this. I must be a winner. And I wasn't a winner. I was a douche. It wasn't rational. And then if we can do that thing, then I think naturally you will overpush less. I think that you will hopefully learn to fold at the point it is. And you know, deciding to fold is not something you decide at the beginning. It's something that you should always kind of have an eye on. Like, is this where I fold? Is this where I fold? If you can do that, you can reduce your over pushes. And my final point was getting into opponent's head. This is where the what would you discards, I think, could be really interesting. it's a bit, it's a bit meta that rather than just watching the tiles, we should be watching the players, but we should be watching the players even when we're not on the game table. All of those friends, your community that you're sharing with your cards and you're having those wonderful discussions with, you should watch for their answers as well, and their thinking behind those answers. I know often we say, I'm going to do this, I would do this, and then we benchmark our answer against the other people. You shouldn't be benchmarking your answer or your performance against them. That's not the way to do it. You need to watch them. You need to be understanding what's going on in their heads. What is their rationale for what they're choosing? Because once you can get to that point, then you're going to be better at assessing what their behaviors are going to be at the table. It's very easy to say, well, no one will throw that. No one will throw that 4-pin. That's a crazy tile. It's super dangerous. People will throw that tile. And so you almost need to be able to predict people's irrationality. Just like, all of these hedge fund traders have not understood the irrationality of these retail investors. So you need to be able to predict that, and you need to be able to predict people being idiots, basically. And I can tell you now, professionals are also doing that. When they're handing these what would you discards to each other, they're also watching each other. And this is why sometimes they can be a little bit cagey if you ask them, what would you discard? Because they don't want to reveal too much. They don't want to tell you too much about what's going on in their heads, much about their strategies, either short-term in the game or long-term over their careers. I will open up a little bit to questions now if anyone has any questions. Danielle, I'm not sure quite which situation you're thinking about this one for you. Yeah, everyone in their mahjong journey, identifying what is a mistake is hard if you don't have access to that strategy literature. But I will say, I don't think we should put too much weight on the Japanese materials only. There are a lot of fine groups. If you're interested in the competitive Riichi scene, I do think the competitive Riichi Mahjong Discord is a very positive place, and a very respectful place. There's always that you can consider. Also, you're not playing the Japanese professionals most of the time, with the exception of the WRC. Most of the time, you're playing your fellow Europeans. Yeah. So, sorry, I'm sorry, there's no limit. I'm sorry that not everyone can see the PowerPoint, but I will share it later. So 4-pin may be considered a safe tile. I would say it was a very dangerous tile. This one, you're very kind if you think that's a safe tile. You're a very kind person. That's not a safe tile. That's not a safe tile at all. I mean, this red 5 is a little crazy. I would say it wasn't a very... Certainly, for what I have here, the Easts are a better throw. All I've got here is these concealed Easts. That's all I have. No other value here. A 2-3-5 shape. No, it's a 5 red 5. Yeah. As soon as a red 5 gets thrown out by the dealer, you've got to be imagining something a little different from your regular patterns of behaviors happening, because people don't throw red 5s out of their hand like that, which is why I would suggest that the 8-pin was particularly dangerous, which I do then proceed to throw the next turn after. I would say the 8-pin was particularly dangerous here because it's adjacent to the door and because the dealer has exhibited this peculiar behavior to the end. It's funny, I actually didn't get punished for this set of terrible mistakes. I actually lucked out and the dealer tsumos just after this tile. Again, I think there's a lot of focus on the outcomes, and I know how I'd feel. I'd be like, oh, phew. And I'd go and tell my friends, like, you don't really, I just missed that, and I'd talk about it as if I just missed that, and I wouldn't frame it as I played like an idiot and somehow I still missed. I didn't even have to be in this hand. I could have folded quite happily. I didn't have to do this to myself. Discard them. Are there any other questions? I do have an encore. Final, what would you discard if people are interested? Yeah. Yeah, Simon, that's a great remark. So Simon remarks, I mentioned several times today, poker player Annie Duke, who advises to not give the outcome of a play when discussing a move. I entirely agree with that, and I do try not to fast forward. So I only fast forwarded that one because I wanted to tell you guys that I didn't throw into something stupid this time. Yeah, and you know, the professionals can actually, you know, this is another thing. Sometimes they shout at each other. You know, that's results theory, right? So often people come out and like, oh, I got away with it. And then you're adding that to your little list in your mind of things that you got away with. And then when you're thinking to make a decision in the future, your brain goes like, oh, well, I got away with it those 20 times. Why not now? Because that's how humans think. It's not the way we should play. Yeah. Like making a kanchan. I was going to say that, you know, for some of these, you know, Ishanten situations, I'm pretty sure some people are going, well, if I keep pushing this, someone's going to can, and then I'll have 4 Dora or something, depending on what platform you're playing on. And seem to be particularly popular in the last 12 months. I don't think that kind of strategy is definitely going to win in some environments, but that strategy will not win for the WRC. You know, a lot of these professionals are used to playing these irrational actors, which we are many. So, what do you think of your wonderful questions to ask me? I'd like to give a thank you to Angelo for inviting me to this wonderful event once more. I really hope that I can participate and contribute in any way in the future. Simon for also helping me with my participation. The Japan Professional Mahjong League for providing me the materials to teach with. If you're interested in Shotori's book, that is the book. I'm afraid in English, it's in Japanese only. However, if you read Japanese, that's the ISBN number for you to. Yeah, I actually haven't read all of it yet because after the first chapter, I got quite like, oh no. What if halfway through the book he literally just starts saying, Gemma, you need to stop doing this? Because that's really what it felt like. For other things, World Reach Championship, you can go to worldreachy.org, and I do have a blog which is sporadically updated at mahjonggem.com. And also, Jen and Garth are maintaining their blog haphazardly as well through the pandemic. As you can imagine, mahjong is not the same in Japan as it is not the same for all of us at reachmahjong.com if you are curious about that. So Jeremy has a good point, yes. Zero gives some good advice. Checks at fixed time when you reassess your hand's value at specific turns. Yeah. And I can give you my specific turns are definitely when I see. I'll put the links in the chat rooms, yes. So the link, so the points where I like to reassess, particularly, are when dealer in particular, any player, throws a tile, suggests to me that their hand has dramatically changed. And then I have to make a decision. Is my hand as good as their hand? Should I keep going? So, and I've read his book. It's very interesting as well. Let me see if I can give you this. Something. I will share this whole PowerPoint. You lives. Why? I have to share these later for some reason. Them as Srada says it's positive reinforcement. That's why you think you can get away with it. It's perfect. That's the exact phrase that I should have used. Positive reinforcement. Bonark says, I think I play well enough when I'm behind. Sometimes I tend to push more, making me losing more points. And I think this is something, sorry, Dave is actually in the chat channel. I'm going to call him out. And I have given this criticism to Dave before that, no, Dave gives this criticism to me. I don't tend to push enough sometimes. And Dave pushes too much when he is on top, I've noticed. So, you know, these are the sort of play styles that if you're in a good group of friends, you can share with each other. Because apart from not to do? Do you have advice about how not to do it? How to keep a cool head? You know what, Seiko, if you find out how, can you tell me? Because this is something I really struggle with. It's frustrating to me personally. I think that given the sort of opportunities I've had, I should have managed to achieve more titles and in Mahjong. I've not. Because I can't keep a cool head. I know the theory, I know the strategy, and with the what would you discards, I can write essays on why this tile is better than that tile. And I love talking about it, but in a game, no, I'm pretty atrocious at that. So I'm quite open and transparent. So you know, if you feel you've seen something about me and want to ask about it, I am more than happy to answer. Or if third place is people pushing it around me. Yeah. Do you know what? I feel like third place is my doom at the moment. This last few weeks, I've played less Mahjong recently, and you know, unfortunately, I don't play on 10 holes so much. Where third place would not be such a bad outcome. I do play on run still. Third place is not a terrible outcome, but not as nice as first. You know, it's like to be a Mahjong player. Sometimes you really have to be prepared to look deep inside your soul and really, you know, assess what were you doing. Like that what would you discard I showed you, I can go straight into my mind and I can see exactly what I was thinking. Oh, it's the first hand, I want to start with, I don't want the dealer to continue, I've got 3 easts, this should be my hand, blah blah blah. And it's a terrible way to think. Now, maybe this kind of attitude has gotten me some places in life that I wouldn't have done otherwise, but it doesn't help me on the Mahjong table. He says, one thing I've noticed is that experience plays a role. After a streak of games which I had very bad situations, I realized I could assess what I had to do in this kind of situations while keeping my cool. Well, you're doing better than me, Jeremy, because I feel like bad situations make me play worse. Like I'm definitely a tilty player. I did used to play poker, and when I played poker, I would have to take breaks because if I had a streak of games, I knew that if I didn't just step away, I would continue my poor streak. There was no getting away. Like exactly 3 east, more like 3 safe tiles. Exactly, and it's that kind of framing it that I think will make us better players. Yeah. I rarely panic. Panic is definitely not something I do. You know, I've seen players who panic. I'm not one of them. I'm the cocky player. I'm the player who thinks that, you know, if I just keep driving ahead, it's gonna somehow turn out all right. You can ask me any questions if you want before I move on to the final. What would you discard? If there's any questions you want to ask about Godrici, you can ask me anything. I'll try to answer. Can't tell you when the vaccines are. To Misty. Oh, thank you, Bonark. Yeah. I did laugh at this picture when I found it. I was like, huh, not look like that after 10 to 11 months of a pandemic, that's for sure. Optimistic. Thank you, Bonark. Thank you. That's a much nicer way to do it. But you know, pride comes before fall. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll move on to the final. What would you discard? Yeah. This is also from the JPM. I can't tell you what their answers were because I also didn't look. I just picked it up, and what I will do is I will add this to your Discord later, the answers. I thought that it would be better to leave it here for you to think about and discuss, or I ruined the show. So I did give you a hot tip. Yes. Difficult, yeah. Fortunately, it's not an Ishan 10 one, which should dovetail perfectly into my presentation. And Simon would do 8 man. Okay, that would be my choice as well. Man would be my choice. Pin or 7 pin? I went for the 7 pin. Do you know, I would be too. Problem with the 8 man for me. I do really like Sanshoku, and again, I mean, it's. I think it's a joke in the community now that I really love Sanshoku. and I don't know, maybe other people don't have these problems, but I certainly play up to it sometimes if I think people are watching. Maybe push for a Sanshoku that you should never push for. Yeah, the 1-2-3 Sanshoku mic is a nice option here. Some people, no one here has shouted Chanta, which is actually what I was anticipating someone might shout. We're out there thinking about Chanta. I also thought about it. I decided I did not like it because I don't like Chanta, but I'm sure someone was. Itsu. Mm. In a fold later, yeah. I mean, the point situation here means that you're second. Second is nice. It's a little way away from the top player who's also dealer at the moment. I mean, I think this is one where you probably need an exit strategy, right? You don't want to pump up if you want to go for first. You don't want to accidentally throw the dealer any level of points here. Would be a bad lookout. So I think that locking in the 7-man door personally, what I would do. But that's kind of playing to a very standard sort of theory in JPM, at least. I'm not going to say for the whole of Japan, because of course there are lots of different thinkings out there when it comes to mahjong. But standard fear for JPML would probably be to throw the 8-man out and lock in your door. That would be what they would do. That would be my guess as to what most of the professionals. 7-pin. Hold on a second. Okay. So I don't think I can give you the answer right now. I'm sorry. I have to. I have to restart my computer so I don't have the things up. I will leave this with you all to go for it later. So I mean, what would you discard is slightly different again, because of course they've been given the points, the point structure here. Whereas if we look back at the previous one that we had, find it here. Well, they had the point structure, but point structure here, you really do kind of want to go for high scoring hand, right? Closest to a first. Sort of hand with those 2 doras, you could really turn into a first place. One thing I would say is I think that you said, we commented on how many answers these professionals gave for this first what would you discard. I think if they had watched the game play out, not to finish, answers would have been more similar. The reason that they would have been more similar is that they would have seen how the game was playing out, and they'd have a better grasp on the psychology of what was going on. The 6-pin here, let me tell you. The 6-pin was thinking. They're thinking Chitoi, Toitoi, and Tanyao. So they are going straight at it, and they are going to. That's their focus exactly, Valentin. To focus. Sorry if you can't see this. I wonder if I can put it. Oh no. I put this? Will it let me? Did it? Yay. Basic. It's really locking yourself in here. And if you're throwing the 6 pin, you're calling as well. There's no way you're not calling this through for your tour. Tanya door too. We'll put the other what would you discard in. If you get the 5, so for the first one, if you get the 5 or the 8, going to be dropping the 8 pin then. So if you throw the 6 pin and later you draw the 5 or the 8 man, then you're going to be throwing those 8 pins, aren't you? To get a Tanya door or 2. Tanya is terminals are honors, so be a fairly obvious Tanya to me. Or might throw the 2 pin even. Have a general strategy question. Jeremy says, what are the differences of play style you've observed amongst different communities and how should one adapt? It's really hard. It's a really hard question. Definitely think that there's a particular meta that's starting to kind of develop in Europe. I think that previously, if you'd have asked me this question, I would have said that meta styles were kind of restricted to countries. So when I first started playing in the European community, I would play often in the Netherlands because I was living in Germany at the moment, so it was a very easy country for me to travel to. At that time, you could definitely see that the kind of MCR influence was really impacting their play style. And I think that's still true a little bit for the Dutch players, however, not so true anymore. And I think that overall, the European level has risen, but we're all playing kind of similar. Because we're all reading the same kind of literature. You know, we all now read Dinah Cheever's fantastic Ricci Book 1. We hope for Ricci Book 2, Dinah, if you're out there. But we've all read that book, and that's really impacting our style as a community at the moment. I think if you want to step out of that kind of, you know, everyone's sort of plodding along, if you want to be the person that kind of makes waves, you need to re-examine that book from the perspective of everyone's going to be playing this as the pinnacle of the best mahjong strategy. How do I break that? So I mean, you know, so, and I think that's what we did in the beginning. So, and I said, you know, the Dutch community, they were very influenced by MCR, whereas the British community weren't so heavily influenced by MCR. There was a lot of British mahjong influence, I'd like to point out. I have seen a lot of British mahjong style play, and you know, if you've ever not played British mahjong, you're in a very good position. I do not get along with British mahjong. However, British mahjong tends to play with the honors a lot more than we would in MCR, Ricci, all of those. You know, they really make a lot of value out of their honor tiles, and you can see the British players holding on to those honor tiles. Oh, you're like, what are you doing with that? There's already 2 out on the. What's your plan here? It's a habit, right? It's a habit. It's the same with the Dutch players. You know, MCR was the primary game style at the time, so they got into those habits. And each country's kind of play style was dictated by how the community started, Whereas now, I think because we are all, we are all Europeans, we're all playing with each other often. We've all read the same sort of books. That if you want to break that, you have to analyze that book. You have to go out of it and analyze it. Okay, if everyone's going playing like this, how do I win against these players? I'm sorry, I think Dave's on the channel as well, so I'll be careful what I say about the Americans. But I think when I first went to the States to play there, I think that probably tile efficiency was not their strongest point. And I did play very well in some of their tournaments until they worked out tile efficiency. But I'd witnessed that this was an issue, and I played to it. That's the thing, mahjong's not just about being the best at being tile efficient, the best tile efficiency, the best person evaluating value. It's not. It is all of these things, but it's also not, because you have to play the players. You have to work out what they're going to do, and you have to work out what the vulnerabilities to that are. Using Dinah's book is going to make you a very strong player. It's not going to make you invincible. Ever. If it did make you invincible, these professionals wouldn't come to the WRC and still wipe the floor with us. We went into 2017 with Dinah's book within our community and making strong players. We still, fortunately, it didn't take them long to work out how we were playing and for them to adjust their play style for that. And that does put us at a disadvantage, because the winning play styles like Dinah's book is that it's a very strong way to play, and it's definitely going to elevate you into the top tiers of competitive mahjong in Europe. However, it's not. There is no such thing as invincible. Sakura's word, I can't win at this game anyway, can you? Yes. I mean, it's yeah. And this game will never love you. Mahjong will never love you. You may love Mahjong, but Mahjong will never love you back. I hope that didn't upset anyone. I mean, this is the one thing about mahjong that I love, and it's a bit, it's a bit like poker. You're never going to become the best at it. It's not possible. It's always going to be an ever evolving. You might be on top for a while, and then someone else will be on top, and you have to work out again, how are you going to do this? It's a constant learning process. You will never going to stop learning how to play mahjong, ever. Sorry. Best way to win is not to play. This is why. I said I will tell you all. I've had some of the best training, but I have not ever really come out with 8 titles. But that's not what keeps me coming back to mahjong. It's the fact that it's a constant learning process. I learn so much about myself. I learn so much about my friends, and obviously the community. I think this is something that I've slowly been orientating the WRC towards, is this idea of competitive socialization. The fact that you can be competitive with people and socialize. And this is where mahjong is kind of uniquely positioned in board games, in that, sure, you are fighting against 3 other people on your table to win the game. However, there is this strange sort of cooperation in the game as well, that you don't really get in other games. I don't feel personally. In poker, there's an actual dealer who has to hand the cards out, and it's very aggressive. I think that mahjong is very particular in that, even though you've sat there and you're losing, and then someone wins this wonderful hand, but you can all appreciate it. It's not to play. How about a nice game of chess? And I'm not sure chess is a very friendly game either. I've seen what those chess communities get up to. That's some dirty stuff, man. Yeah, so, and I think it's very difficult at the moment as well. I don't, maybe other people are not suffering like I am, but not being able to play mahjong in real life has really, during this pandemic, has really, I've fallen out of love with the game. But being able to travel, to talk to people about the game in person, to have those moments, to have those shared experiences with someone where, okay, I didn't win, but I saw someone else win in an amazing, beautiful way. To have that kind of experience, those shared times. Um, can't replicate those online so easily, I don't think. So anyway, I hope you're surviving whatever this new time is, and I always hope for your support with WRC. It's uh, my baby's a bit certainly where all of my passion is for this game. Dave is streaming. I'm sure he's gone off, has he? I was going to swear then, but I decided not to. Yeah, I'm sure it's all about GameStop, right? I'm not a financial advisor. I'm barely a mahjong advisor. Exactly, Bonnock. Exactly. That's it's something that as the WRC president, I've always angsted over that. I can invite 240 people, 280 people to an event. I'm only going to have one winner, and then I'm going to have 239 losers. Like, what do you do with them? And especially for 2017, I really stressed about it. I was like, oh no, we're going to have all these people, and only one of them can win. How is this a good time for anyone? Obviously, I was horribly wrong, because everyone had an amazing time and enjoy the game. They enjoy seeing someone win. Very collaborative in that respect. Cake or cookies. Oh, good. I'm glad it felt like a marginal convention. I think that's definitely the way we're kind of hoping to do WRC. That we can. Obviously, I want to keep. I obviously keep. The competitive element to it is very important. The Japanese really enjoy the competition of you guys. I go like, oh, they come in and they wipe the floor with you guys, ha ha ha. And honestly, that's not how they narrate it so much. They especially, every year, and they get to play with you, they say, oh, getting better now, and they're enjoying you guys getting better at mahjong, because they're looking forward to the day when you beat them, because then finally, then they get to have this experience that we're all having. Is like, how do we beat them? How do we beat them? How do we beat them? We need to beat them. They want that experience as well. They want to be looking at us going like, how are they playing, and how do I beat them? Yeah. Loves a good rivalry. Yes, and there are plans afoot for snack sharing. Again, I'm going to say this coronavirus dependent, because I do not know what the regulations or restrictions will be come August. They don't want to win. And I think for 2017 we had a good number of people in the top 32 that really, we're starting to give them a little bit of a stretch. I think for 2021 this year, or they're gonna have to try. I know, I want tournaments. I really want tournaments. Oh, I'm gonna I think hugs are out for a while. I don't have hugs, man. I barely left my house for like 10 to 11 months now. I don't know if I can be like, it's I was a little bit worried even when I was preparing the presentation. I was like, can I still talk? I don't know anymore. And will people be bringing business wear for finals? I'm not going to mandate that you wear business wear if you're on the final table. What I would like is that you wore clothes that you'd be proud to be wearing on TV. Just imagine, would your mum look at you on the TV and be like, yes, that's what I want to see my child wearing. As long as you're happy, it's not offensive, I'm fine. I just want to with Kanya t-shirt. Oh, not Kanya, please. I don't want to have to explain Kanya. I really don't have to explain Kanya. Yes, please. Club jerseys. 2 thumbs up for club jerseys. Like, yeah. Now, don't tread on me as political. Down with political stuff. You're not allowed. I have got it on the code of conduct. You are not allowed to wear political slogans. Don't tread on me as political. Unfortunately, what's political might be subjective rather than objective. So you have to wait. You have to rely on Gemma's subjective opinion on what's political. That's the problem with the jerseys, right? Like, you know, often, oh, because you're sat down, like often people get like a really nice shirt or something and they have a nice slogan, but then because you're only seeing like top half, you need to make sure that it's visible. Yeah, exactly. Simone's got it. You want to have something that appears on the wrists like that. Yeah. A contract with a watchmaker, that would be interesting. I hadn't thought about that one. Oh, nail art. Yeah, I do think I did make a restriction on nail art at one point. Partly, and this is my fault, like my nails were painted literally the same color as the backs of the tiles. Literally, it was the perfect color match. And so every now and then you could see people doing double takes at my nails, and I was like, oh no. Basically, if it's not disruptive to the game, I don't care. If it's disruptive to the game, I start to care. So I think, you know, hopefully, you know, and we have been able to rely on people to use their common sense. I understand that I'm probably living on borrowed time, that at some point someone's going to prove that there is no common sense in this world. Train station, yeah, a lot to get those nail varnishes off. Yeah. Any other questions? I'm here. You can ask me whatever. You can ask me about my life. Nothing really much has happened here. So I'll talk about WRC then. WRC, Lena, I would like to give Lena a big shout out. Like, I do not know how that girl has managed to go through this nightmarish time. You know, we should have had the WRC 2020, and I won't lie that this time last year I was still happy. A few months this time last year I was a very unhappy, very, very scared person. Lena has managed to keep strong, managed to, you know, speak to the hotels and make sure that we got a good outcome, and we were able to postpone with not too much financial drama. So we are planning to go forward with 2021. Obviously, this is very much dependent on travel restrictions and any other restrictions by the Austrian government about the coronavirus pandemic still raging. And I really hope that I can ask everyone to be patient with the WRC. You know, it might be like, you know, some sort of, people might think, oh, this is the time to jump to online. I definitely think we should do things like this online are great. I hope that I would like to hold out and not put WRC online, because as I think on my you know, I want it to be a chance for you to network. I want it to be like a convention. You know, the competitive element is very important. I would like there to be this kind of networking convention aspect to the event, so that, you know, you're going to come and you're going to represent your country and you're going to play really well, but you're also going to have an opportunity to meet people from other players from other countries that you wouldn't have had the chance to otherwise, and you'd be able to have hand in with these professional players that, you know, you can start organizing your own things at WRC. That, I think that would be wonderful for everyone. Personally, I've been resistant to putting the WRC as an online only event. I'd rather hold out and keep an event Austria in real life. Please keep patient with WRC, and also if you see Lena, thank her and give her love. Holding this up, she's a rock. Yeah, the scheduling between time zones, we did okay. So we did do the World Ricci online festival. It worked out okay, partly because we had four sessions. We could hit every single time zone. It's never ideal, and someone always loses. I think that worked out fine for the most. If you get to the final tables, I mean, most people are prepared to adjust their sleeping schedule if there are prizes. Okay. Like maybe I've exhausted questions. I'm sorry. I thought my presentation would be a bit longer. Unfortunately, presentations when you give them in real life are not quite so quick, if that makes sense. You have a feel for the room more, and you can talk about things and kind of riff off each other. Presentations, I'm staring at my screen. Don't go quite as quicker than I had. So, there are no other questions. I will have to hand back to my precious host.
Well, thank you very much, Gemma, for your presentation. It was great. You managed your stress really well. I see there are indeed no more questions. We are very glad to have had you with us. And I really, really don't know what to say to convey, I think, the feelings of this community for you.
Thank you, that's so sweet.
Donc, je vous remercie tous pour d'avoir assisté aux présentations vocales de nos différents intervenants aujourd'hui. Peut-être que Angelo et Génome voudraient donner un petit mot, parce que moi je suis venue uniquement comme modératrice sur cet événement.
Eh ben, merci à tous d'avoir été présents. Désolé de Gemma pour l'anglais. J'avoue que c'est un peu difficile de parler en anglais sans faire une faute à chaque mot. J'aurais aimé un petit peu plus d'interaction pour te faire honneur. En tout cas, j'ai été ravi, moi, de cette journée, et j'espère qu'on en refera à nouveau de manière régulière pour continuer l'aventure ensemble.
J'aimerais dire un gros merci aux organisateurs aussi. C'était super cool comme event. Puis c'est bien de pouvoir participer à ça. Moi, forcément, comme vous le savez, je suis un peu loin. Fait que c'est pas évident ça aurait pas été évident pour moi de venir en France directement, mais de faire ça en ligne, je trouve ça bien. Puis ouais, je serais partant pour participer à d'autres moutures d'événements, que ce soit dans les prochains mois ou quand ça donnera là, mais je suis toujours prêt à partager ce que je sais puis ce que je peux faire. And great presentation also, Gemma, it was great.
Merci à tous pour l'organisation également. Je voulais peut-être proposer quelque chose, vu que dans le programme ATT, il parlait de jeux libres et on n'a pas eu l'occasion d'en faire. Donc, est-ce qu'il y a moyen qu'on s'organise un petit peu entre nous après pour voir potentiellement pour faire différents groupes de jeux une fois qu'on aura fini ici?
Ouais, carrément. Je suis chaud pour jouer, perso.
Alors tout à fait, les chans sont déjà prêts, les logiciels sont à disposition dans l'onglet jeux ou ressources du Discord. Donc n'hésitez pas, l'espace est à disposition pour vous.
Et si jamais vous avez besoin de salles vocales supplémentaires ou de channels supplémentaires, n'hésitez surtout pas à pinguer